The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I could not agree with my friend from California more. And that's why in a previous hearing in this room, I pointed out that when we found out from the IG inspector in the Department of Justice that there could have been thousands of violations of the abuses of the national security letter, I called the White House, talked to the chief of staff, and said, this is outrageous. We're not going to defend this. You need a new attorney general. And I'm waiting for a Democrat to stand up and say, we've been lied to in Congress. Things have been obfuscated, hidden, and we're not going to stand for this either. But it has become so partisan that one of my other friends in Congress has pointed out, if Republicans had rallied around Richard Nixon the way Democrats have rallied around abusers in this administration, Nixon would have finished out his term. Republicans would have kept control that they lost. So many of the liberal accommodations that came through legislation in the aftermath of Watergate would not have occurred. We wouldn't have had Jimmy Carter, and history would be different. But fortunately, most of us believe right is right, wrong is wrong. You're not supposed to lie. But Mr. McCarthy, you taught me a great deal from your book, Faithless Execution. I know this is a lot to ask, but in a nutshell, could you give us the premise of your book? And I know you've touched on it in your written and oral testimony, but just the book itself, the nutshell lesson to take away.
Congressman Gohmert, it would be that impeachment is an indispensable ingredient of the governing framework that the Constitution provides for us, which requires, if it is to work, that the branches can hold each other in check. And if you get to a point where the major checks that Congress has given on executive overreach, the power of the purse and impeachment being the main ones, if you get to a point where you basically say, we can't use the power of the purse because that'll shut down the government and we can never impeach anyone, then you are green-lighting misconduct, because those are basically the only ways that you have, as a practical matter, to hold the executive branch in check. And the point is not just, again, the misconduct of the official, because every time misconduct of an executive branch official comes up and a proceeding like this comes up, you're on trial as much as the official you're inquiring into is on trial. The question is whether this body can perform its constitutional function of keeping the executive branch in check. If it does, or if it does not, we no longer have the same system of government. There was some dialogue back and forth a moment ago about whether using impeachment in certain instances would shift our balance of power. The balance of power is already shifted. You have executive overreach to a fare thee well, and essentially nothing is done about it, because the thought on the Hill appears to be that the remedies that you would have to use to check the president are not worth invoking. And as a result, you encourage and have more and more lawlessness. So impeachment is a political remedy, not a legal one. And what that essentially means is you have to give as much process in a proceeding like this as is necessary to keep the proceeding politically viable, that it will have integrity, that the public will respect the outcome of it. But what that also means, as I argue in the book, is that you can have 1,000 high crimes and misdemeanors. If you don't have public consensus that the official should be removed, then the official won't be removed.
We've seen that.
But it's really up to you to highlight for the public why the misconduct at issue threatens our constitutional order.
Well, Professor Turley, I have appreciated, seemed like most of my career you were testifying for positions that were more favorably accepted by my Democrat colleagues. But the great thing I've appreciated about you, that you are a man of integrity. You step forward and say what you believe, no matter who's offended or who doesn't like what you say, and I think that's, if we don't take some steps here to protect our jurisdiction, I'm afraid we lose the ability to do what you've done, but my time expired. So I can't yield back what I don't have.